The blade caught afternoon light. Bruce Lee's fingers hovered an inch from the Lao Tzu volume, spine cracked and faded. Dust motes drifted through golden shafts slicing between philosophy shelves. The bookstore smelled of old paper and forgotten summers. Then, a voice broke the silence. "Please, please, I'm 70 years old." The sound came from 3 aisles over, cracking, wet with fear. Bruce turned his head slowly. Between gaps in the shelving he saw steel, glinting against weathered skin, a throat trembling, an elderly man's hands raised, palms out, fingers splayed wide like he was trying to hold back death itself. Cash bills scattered across the wooden counter, a register drawer hung open. The safe, another voice hissed, younger, desperate. "Open the safe or I swear," the blade pressed deeper. A bead of sweat rolled down the old man's temple. Bruce's hand fell away from the book. His muscles coiled without thought, decades of training converting terror into stillness. He could see the knife hand shaking, amateur grip, white knuckles. Few could understand what the old man felt in that moment, steel kissing the thinnest part of his mortality. Bruce stepped sideways, silent, calculating the distance between philosophy and violence, but the knife was already moving. Eddie's knuckles bleached white around the knife handle. Sweat pooled in his palm, making the grip slippery. His eyes darted between the cash register and the old man's face, wild, cornered. "Take it," Mr. Goldstein's voice cracked. "Take the money, please, the safe." Eddie's words came out strangled. "Open the safe. Don't lie to me." The blade trembled 6 inches from the old man's chest. Eddie's whole arm shook. "I know you have one, everyone. Everyone has one." Mr. Goldstein's hands rose, palms forward. 70 years of life reduced to this moment. "Please, I'm begging you." Behind them, 3 aisles deep in philosophy, Bruce moved, one foot, then another. The worn wooden floor accepted his weight without sound. His breathing slowed to match the rhythm of his steps, water flowing downhill, inevitable, patient. Each shelf he passed brought him closer to the counter, closer to the knife, closer to the choice Eddie didn't know he was about to face. Eddie wiped his forehead with his free hand. "I need this. You don't understand. I need this." Bruce emerged from the shadows between nature and cant. He was 6 feet away when he spoke. "Put the knife down." The words sliced through the bookstore air like a second blade. Eddie spun hard, sneakers squeaking against worn floorboards. Bruce stood 3 feet away, emerging from the philosophy section, shadows, hands loose at his sides. Eddie's pupils dilated. "Back off, this isn't your business." Bruce's voice dropped lower, each word measured and deliberate. "He's 70 years old and you have a knife." He stepped forward, 1 foot. "I'm making it my business." The fluorescent light overhead hummed its steady electric drone. Dust particles drifted between them, suspended in the charged silence. Eddie's hand trembled. The blade caught the light, throwing fractured reflections across spines of Kant and Nietzsche. "I said back off, look at your hand." Bruce's tone remained surgical in its calm. "You're shaking." Eddie glanced down. His knuckles had gone bone white around the rubber handle. Sweat darkened the collar of his shirt, spreading like spilled ink. The blade wavered, left, then right, a compass needle searching for north but finding only confusion. Mr. Goldstein pressed himself against the counter, breath coming in shallow gasps. Eddie's throat worked, his jaw clenched. The knife trembled harder now, as if the metal itself understood what came next. "I'll cut you," the words hung in stale bookstore air. Bruce's eyes never left Eddie's shaking wrist. "You'll try." Eddie jerked the blade higher. "Before it reaches me, I'll break your wrist." Bruce's voice stayed level, surgical. "You'll drop it." Then assault charges on top of robbery. The knife wavered. Eddie's breathing accelerated. Ragged gasps that filled the silence between philosophy shelves. Sweat beads formed on his forehead, catching afternoon light like tiny warnings his body broadcast against his will. His knuckles had gone bone white around the handle. "Prison time," Bruce continued, each word deliberate. "Years, is that what you want?" Eddie's chest heaved. His free hand trembled at his side. Bruce watched the blade dip lower. Watched Eddie's shoulders cave inward. This wasn't a predator. This was someone drowning, reaching for anything to keep from going under, not a criminal, desperate. The distinction mattered. Mr. Goldstein whimpered behind the counter. Eddie flinched at the sound, and for one terrible second the knife jerked sideways, but Bruce didn't move. He stood perfectly still, reading the collapse happening inside the man before him, and what he saw changed everything about what he'd do next. Bruce's voice softened, like winter melting into spring. The hard edge dissolved. You don't want to hurt anyone. His tone carried no judgment, only recognition. You need money, I understand, but this isn't the way. Eddie's knuckles remained white around the knife handle. Sweat traced a line down his temple, catching the afternoon light slanting through dusty windows. His jaw clenched. You don't understand anything. The words cracked like breaking ice. Bruce took one step closer. The floorboards creaked beneath him. 2 feet separated them now. Eddie could smell the faint scent of sandalwood from Bruce's shirt, could see the absolute calm in those dark eyes. Few men could stand so close to a blade without flinching. Fewer still could look past the weapon to see the trembling human holding it. I understand you're making a choice. Bruce's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. Defining your entire life, right now. The knife blade trembled. Eddie's breathing came rapid and shallow. Mr. Goldstein remained frozen behind the counter, watching this impossible negotiation unfold. Bruce extended his hand slowly. Palm open, empty. What happened next would ripple through years neither man could foresee. Silence swallowed sound, no footsteps, no traffic hum from the street outside, no breath escaping lips. The bookstore became a vacuum where time folded in on itself. Dust motes hung suspended in golden afternoon light, motionless. Frozen mid-drift like tiny planets arrested in orbit. Eddie stared at the knife. His hand, his fingers wrapped around the black handle. The blade, steel reflecting nothing now, dull and foreign, rested across his palm like evidence of something he couldn't remember doing. Sweat beaded along his hairline. One drop traced the curve of his temple. Down his jaw fell. It hit the counter. The sound cracked through silence like glass shattering. Eddie's chest rose, fell, rose again. Each breath audible now, ragged and uneven, pulling air through a throat tight with something he couldn't name. Mr. Goldstein hadn't moved, shoulders pressed against the wall, eyes wide, watching. Bruce stood 2 feet away, perfectly still. No tension in his stance, no threat, just presence, patient as stone worn smooth by water. Eddie's fingers twitched around the handle. In this suspended moment, 3 men occupied the same space but existed in different dimensions of time. Past mistakes, present choice, future consequences. What Eddie did next would determine which dimension collapsed into reality. Bruce's voice cut through the silence like a key turning in a lock. Put the knife down, return the money, walk away. He paused, weight shifting almost imperceptibly. I won't stop you. Eddie's eyes widened, not with fear but something stranger. Confusion, disbelief rippling across his sweat-slicked face. You're letting me go, Bruce nodded slowly, deliberate as sunrise. I'm giving you a chance to choose differently. Another pause, weighted with unspoken philosophy. Take it, Eddie stared at the blade in his trembling hand. The steel caught afternoon light, throwing fractured gold across Mr. Goldstein's pale face. His fingers, they began to uncurl, 1 digit at a time, slow, hesitant. The knife clattered onto the wooden counter. The sound exploded through the bookstore like breaking glass. Eddie flinched at his own action. His hands moved mechanically, scooping crumpled bills from where they'd scattered, placing them back beside the register. No words, just the whisper of paper against wood. Mr. Goldstein's breath hitched. Eddie turned toward the door, legs wooden, uncertain. He passed within arm's reach of Bruce, gaze locked on the floor. But neither man noticed the shadow shifting outside the bookstore window, or the police cruiser rolling slowly past. Eddie moved toward the door like a ghost drifting through water, his shoulders hunched forward, head bowed. He passed Bruce without lifting his gaze, the space between them thick with unsaid confessions. Bruce's voice followed him, quiet but unwavering. Whatever you're going through, there are better solutions. Find them. Eddie's hand trembled on the doorknob. He pushed through. The door chime sang its bright, innocent note into the heavy air. Afternoon light swallowed his silhouette as he disappeared onto the Lowe's Angels sidewalk. Mr. Goldstein collapsed against the wooden counter. Tears streaked down his weathered face, catching in the creases beside his mouth. His hands shook. "Why?" His voice cracked. "Why did you let him go?" Bruce stood motionless, watching the empty doorway. Dust motes swirled through the golden shafts of light where violence had stood moments before. "Prison wouldn't fix what's broken," Bruce said quietly. He turned to face the old man. "Maybe mercy will." Mr. Goldstein wiped his eyes, but the fear remained. "And if you're wrong?" "If he comes back," the question hung between them like smoke. Outside, somewhere in the sprawling city, Eddie walked free with nothing but a choice, and the weight of one man's faith in his humanity. But neither of them knew what Eddie would do next. 2 years passed like water flowing around stone. Bruce slit open the envelope with his thumb. No return address. The paper felt cheap against his fingertips, thin, drugstore stationery. Handwriting sprawled across the page, unsteady but deliberate, each letter pressed deep enough to leave impressions on the reverse side. "You gave me a second chance in a bookstore." Bruce's breathing slowed. He read the next line. "I'm 2 years sober now, working construction. I think about that moment every single day." The words blurred slightly. Bruce blinked, refocused. "Thank you for seeing me as human. I don't know if I'll ever see you again. But I needed you to know someone you'll never remember saved someone you'll probably forget. And that was enough. No signature, just a dash where a name should be." Bruce folded the letter carefully, set it on his desk. Outside, Lowe's Angels traffic hummed through the afternoon heat. The letter sat there, silent testimony to a choice made in dust and desperation. One man redeemed, one act of mercy justified. But how many others still stood at that same crossroads, with no one there to offer them a second choice? Bruce's fingers traced the shaky handwriting one final time. The paper felt thin, fragile, like the moment it described. He rose and crossed to his bookshelf. His hand moved past recent purchases, stopping at a worn spine, the Tao Te Ching from that afternoon 2 years ago. Dust clung to its edges. The smell of old paper and philosophy section memories rose when he opened it. He folded the letter with precise care, creasing each edge until it became small enough to rest between pages 37 and 38. The book closed with a soft whisper. Sunlight slanted through the window, illuminating the cover. Bruce held the volume in both palms, feeling its weight. One man's desperation met with open hands instead of closed fists. And now construction sites instead of prison cells, sobriety instead of surrender. Few could understand what mercy truly costs, not the withholding of violence, but the offering of dignity when someone has surrendered their own. He placed the book back on the shelf, letting his hand linger on the spine. The letter would remain there, a private monument to what martial arts had always meant to him, not the breaking of bones, the recognition of souls. Even in those who had forgotten, they still possessed one.